And nobody has had a more iconic moment that's gone viral, Matt, than you and the old GC herself and that infamous fall. You had the pleasure of obviously being partnered up in that moment, and that clip to this day is still doing the rounds, isn't it?
I mean, still doing the rounds after rounds after rounds. I mean, I don't know if my Dancing on Ice career was cursed or was granted, the biggest wish.
It's not just about the celebrities, I feel, as a fan of the show, it is about the professionals as well. Like, people learn to love you guys, and you two in particular are two of the, iconic professionals that people, they learn to love, and we've watched you for years. So sadly, you guys are no longer on the show, but if the opportunity came knocking on the door again, would you go back?
I mean, that's very kind of you to say that, Ross. I think Matt and I possibly, I don't want to speak on behalf of him, we're probably hung up our skates now. I mean, I've been retired for 10 years, if you can believe it. And I felt very blessed to have been able to skate well into my 40s as a female athlete. That's quite incredible. So I don't know. I do still skate occasionally, but I don't know if I would be up for skating again. But certainly in some capacity, of course, we both love to go back to dancing on ice because it's such a passion of ours. But not only that, it's such a passion of ours to be able to share our knowledge. We have so much information in our heads about how hard it is to teach celebrities to skate, how hard it is to skate as professionals as well. And then, of course, with our critique, and which is why it's been so lovely that we've been able to have an outlet for that with our podcast.
I think too, Ross, like through our figure skating careers competitively and professionally, and then moving into the world of dancing on ice, Frankie and I, and a lot of the pros who have done multiple series, have sort of rewritten the rule book on how to teach. We now understand that in an environment like dancing on ice, you only have 5 days to teach somebody a new routine. And that had never been done before in our sport. Normally, competitors work for anywhere from 5 to 6 months on one routine. And we have this elevated program of how to teach people certain things in a very short amount of time and hopefully make them look good on a Sunday night. So I think Frankie hit the nail on the head. Like, we have this incredible wealth of knowledge that, we still, try and use that, I guess, through the podcast that we're doing too.
Exactly. You're obviously in the right place for you guys now, being able to comment and critique and using those skills on the podcast instead of being, on the ice as much yourself. But I guess that's why we see so many injuries on the show and things like that, because it is so intense. And I guess us as viewers that just, I just tune in on a Sunday night, not actually really appreciating the amount of physicality that goes on in the previous week. It's hard work, isn't it?
I think this show particularly, I think this series particularly has been fraught with injuries, and probably more than we've seen in any of the other series. And I think that does really highlight that it is still very difficult, and you can't take ice skating for granted. Basically, and of course I love Strictly. We all do, all fans of Strictly, but everybody can dance. You just need a dance floor and a track, and everybody can dance. You can dance in your kitchen, you can dance in the shower. But to ice skate, it's a completely different thing, and it's very dangerous and it's very scary. And I think really from a very young age, especially in the UK, because I'm not used to ice skating as a sport, we sort of think, oh, don't step on the black ice or don't drive when it's icy. We have this inherent fear. Don't have ice in your drinks when you go on holiday. We have this inherent fear of skating. And so I think, when you tune in as a viewer, you still understand that this is actually quite scary stuff. And of course, everybody tunes in because they want to see the odd trip and fall. But nobody wants to see injuries. And at the moment, I feel like we're seeing possibly a few too many injuries.
I'm a wheelchair user myself, and I have dabbled in a bit of ice skating myself on ice in the wheelchair. But wearing the skates so that your feet are still gliding on the ice, it is a lot of fun. But I too have had a tumble where the old blade has caught in the wheel and the chair has just sent me like Pingu through the ice. So there is no escaping the dangers of ice skating.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's incredible. We actually have quite a lot of wheelchair users that come to, Slough Ice Rink particularly, and also Bracknell Ice Rink, which are rinks that I use. And we have a lot of wheelchair users come in. I think that it's really nice because I think as a wheelchair user, you would know, obviously, in real life, when you're trying to navigate certain areas and you can't go fast, obviously there's people around you all the time. But on the ice, it must feel very free because you can just whiz around as fast as you want. You can feel that. It feels exactly the same as skating, would normally. So it must be really freeing for you.
Yeah, you become the popular one because everyone wants to hold on the back of you, thinking that you're the stable one. But yeah, it has its moments. Anyway, guys, we've touched on some of the iconic moments that you've been involved in. Obviously, we've touched on the fall. I want to touch on some of the famous partners and people you've been paired up as well with. Frankie, we have to touch on you, obviously, doing the All Stars series. You only went and met a husband through it as well.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, I met my husband back in 2008. Oh, actually, I met him back in 2007 when I was skating with another footballer, Lee Sharp, who was with Man United. He was my first ever partner on Dancing on Ice, and my husband, David Seaman, had done the previous show with Matt in 2006. So he came back to visit as a celebrity member of the audience and say hi to Lee Sharp. They knew each other. So that's when I first met my husband. I met him on and off again for the next 2 years, really. So, and then, of course, and we never skated together. Everybody always assumed that I was his partner, and I wasn't. He skated with a wonderful skater called Pam O'Connor. And he had skated with another lady called Zoya Birmingham in the BBC show. So he'd obviously, done the show twice and had a great time. And then obviously he and I toured together in 2009. So it was interesting when we came back in 2014 because everybody thought that we had this long association with the show as a pair, and we hadn't. I'd skated with multiple other people, and he had skated with other partners too. So it was really interesting when we came back and did the All Stars because obviously it's something that we do for fun. Like, we just love it. So to be able to showcase that on the telly was a really special moment. I mean, who gets to skate with their husband? It's absolutely fantastic.
Exactly. It's such a cool concept, and look at you guys now. It's awesome. Here's a question for you guys. If you had the opportunity, say that you were back on the ice and you could pick any dream celebrity partner, who would you like to pair up with?
Henry Cavill.
Oh, a bit of Superman himself.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I'd probably pick either Channing Tatum or Gene Kelly, just because they both have such epic partnering and dance skills.
I like those answers.
Or Henry Cavill, because why not?
I don't. It doesn't matter if Henry can skate or not. I mean, we'll just look at him.
Yeah. Who needs H from Steps, Matt, when you can have Henry Cavill, hey?
Oh, no, we love H.
I'm joking. We love H. We do. Guys, now we have to talk about the podcast, of course. This is what you guys are throwing yourselves into now. The commentary throughout the new series has been fantastic. And tell us a bit about the podcast, because when I've, tuned in and heard bits of it, something surprised me is that you guys don't hold back. You guys are giving full-on advice and criticism to the show. So I love it. It's great. Frankie, tell us a bit about the podcast, what people can expect.
Well, as you said, we don't hold back. We wanted to, when we first decided to do the podcast, which was last year after Matt retired, we wanted to be the voice of the fans, the voice of the nation, because you guys sit at home and you watch it, and of course it's all about the hair and the makeup and the costumes and the music. But sometimes, because the judges have such a very short amount of time to critique each individual couple, they don't really get to explain why this went wrong or why this is so great. And so we thought, well, we can have a much longer discussion around that, and we can really explain this to people. Ice skating is a very complex sport. It's not like dance. It's very complicated. It's very dangerous. It's really difficult. It's a lot about micro mechanics, but it's also an emotional, performative sport. So not only are you seeing great technique because they're not falling over or they're doing lifts or they're doing spins, but you're also being told a story and you're being dragged into that. It's an acting performance. And then on top of that, of course, there's the music and the hair and the makeup, and there's just so much to dissect and chat about that. Of course, Matt and I were like, well, hey, let's have at it, because we wanted to explain it to you guys.
That's the thing, Matt. There is so much to discuss, isn't there? That a podcast format, and we all know how popular podcasts are nowadays, this just feels like the perfect thing for a show like Dancing on Ice, to have you guys, because you've had experience firsthand of it as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as Frankie said, last year when we were discussing after I retired what we were going to do, we sort of really listened to the fans of the show. Now, this was even before Dancing and I started last year. So, we kind of went through the social media to see what the fans were talking about, what they wanted to see, just their comments in general. And as Frankie said, there was just so much about, well, I don't understand that, or that score is wrong. They shouldn't have been scored that, or they should have been scored this. How come this person went home? And these are the really tough questions that they don't get to answer on the television program, mostly because of time constraints. But that's what Frankie and I really wanted to bridge the gap between the viewer and the TV shows, to really explain from two experts about what is happening and why they are doing that, and sort of the whole kit and caboodle about what the show is about. And had fantastic success so far, and we love doing it. And hopefully, if the series comes back next year, that the Icebreakers will come back again too.
Guys, give us a final plug. Matt, where can people find the podcast and follow along so they can keep up to date with everything you guys are discussing?
Yeah, the Icebreakers podcast can be found wherever you listen to your podcast. It's on all the major streaming platforms. And then as well, we always keep you guys updated on our socials. So either find Frankie or myself individually on social media or the Icebreakers podcast.
Perfect stuff. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking time out and joining us here on Chaos today. Like I said, big Dancing on Ice fans, so we're looking forward to sharing this interview with everyone. And we'll be keeping an eye on your unfiltered comments throughout the rest of this series. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ross. Thanks, Chaos.